ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ, ਸਵਾਗਤ ਹੈ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਇਨ ਫੋਕਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ। ਟੋਰਾਂਟੋ ਤੋਂ ਮੈਂ ਹਾਂ ਜਸਲੀਨ ਕੌਰ। ਓਨਟਾਰੀਓ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਲਗਾਤਾਰ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਡਰਾਈਵਿੰਗ ਵੇਲੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਸੈੱਲ ਫੋਨ ਦਾ ਇਸਤੇਮਾਲ ਨਾ ਕਰਨ। 2016 ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਓਨਟਾਰੀਓ ਪ੍ਰੋਵਿੰਸ਼ੀਅਲ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਵੱਲੋਂ 65 ਡੈਥ ਰਿਪੋਰਟਸ ਦਰਜ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਗਈਆਂ ਸਨ, ਜਿਸ ਦਾ ਕਾਰਨ ਸੀ ਸਿਰਫ ਡਿਸਟਰੈਕਟਡ ਡਰਾਈਵਿੰਗ। ਰਿਪੋਰਟਸ ਮੁਤਾਬਕ एक्सीडेंट रिलेटेड डेथ्स का ओनटारियो दे विच सब तो वड्डा कारण है डिस्ट्रैक्टेड ड्राइविंग, यानी कि मोर दैन ड्रंक ड्राइविंग। ते इस संबंधी विस्तार दे विच गलबात करन लई अज साडे नाल स्टूडियो दे विच खास तौर ते मौजूद हन ओनटारियो प्रोविंशियल पुलिस दे सार्जेंट कैरी Schmidt। Hello Sergeant Kerry Schmidt, very warm welcome to PTC studio once again.
Thank you for having me here, appreciate it.
Sergeant Kerry Schmidt, we know that the stiffer distracted driving penalties took effect in January 2019, but can we do a recap on what exactly the rules are in Ontario for distracted driving?
Yeah, do you know what? The distracted driving rules are very specific. It's using or holding a handheld communication device, and a communication device is your cell phone. So really the distracted driving law is very specific on your cell phone. If you have that cell phone in your hand and you're using it for any purpose, whether it is to text or email, to phone, to use it for maps or navigation or music, Spotify, entertainment, anything like that, you've committed the offense. And the penalty on the side of the road is $615, 3 demerit points, and an automatic 3-day license suspension upon conviction. Now, there are some things that you can do with it, and some people will have their phones mounted in a holder, maybe suction cup to the window or maybe attached to your vent, and you can have it sitting there, but you're only allowed to touch it once to answer or end a call. You're not allowed to start touching and swiping through screens and looking at your text messages just because you're not holding it. The fact is you're still using it, and that is the problem. A lot of people think that they can just have it in their cup holder beside the console, or they can just have the phone sitting there and they can touch it and hold it there. No, you can't. Anytime it's not permanently mounted or mounted securely in the vehicle, you're committing the offense if you're using it. And if you're holding it, obviously, that's the offense as well. The only real exception for that cell phone is if you need to call 911. We just know that when you have that phone, that vibration or that ring goes off and you want to check some messages, you want to do something on your phone, it really causes distraction because you're not looking at the road, you're looking down at your phone, and we all know how quickly traffic can stop.
And in my introduction, I just said that more deaths are because of distracted driving, more than drunk driving. Is that true?
Yes, that is true. Yeah, we talk about the leading causes of death and injury, and distracted driving, aggressive driving, impaired driving, and the lack of seatbelt use or appropriate car seats are among the leading causes. And distracted and inattentive related collisions are certainly right on top. Right now, I think aggressive driving and speeding related fatalities are number 1, but it really doesn't matter. Every single person who dies because they're engaged in any one of those high risk activities is completely preventable. And sadly, it's the OPP and the law enforcement that need to go knock on people's doors to let them know that there was a collision and someone died. And when they find out the reason for it, it's so heartbreaking because we know it shouldn't have happened in the first place.
So when we say distracted driving, is it only using your cell phones or any screen in your car?
Yeah, so you can't have display screens in your vehicle as well. So if you have your cell phone mounted to your vent or your window and you're watching YouTube videos, that's an offense because now you have a display screen showing videos. You can't watch movies while you're going down the highway. It's like having a television in your car. The distracted driving legislation is specific to cell phones. There's been a lot of discussions about whether I can still drink my coffee, eat a muffin, have a sandwich, and do other activities in the vehicle, that you could be charged with distracted driving for that as well. You're not going to be charged with the distracted driving offense because that's specific to cell phones. You could potentially be charged with careless driving if drinking your coffee and having your sandwich and eating your breakfast, if that changes the way you are able to safely drive your vehicle. And if the police notice that you're all over the road, up and down on your speed, you're not sharing the road, you're not aware of your surroundings, basically you're not driving with due care and attention. And if you're driving without attention, you could be charged with careless driving. The cell phone law is specific, or the distracted driving law is specific to cell phones. So I don't want people to think that they can't have their morning coffee. They can, just if you spill it and it's hot, something could happen.
Yeah.
It could be a bad situation. So be careful out there and always make sure your full attention is on driving.
The viewers who are watching this show right now, they might have a question. What is the difference between the distracted driving charges and the distracted driving offenses?
Oh, well, the distracted driving charge is, again, if you're having a cell phone, the charge is distracted driving. If you're drinking coffee, reading a book, reading a newspaper, playing on your computer while you're driving, that's not distracted driving, but that is careless driving. In Ontario, that's careless driving. So that's the distinction. The penalties for careless driving are very similar to distracted driving. It's going to cost you $490. There's going to be 6 demerit points associated with that. Penalties can go up to $2,000 if it goes to court, or maybe if you're involved in a collision. And there's also enhanced penalties of careless driving causing bodily harm and careless driving causing death. So if you're driving and you're not paying due care and attention, which is the responsibility of any driver when you're operating your vehicle, that you're paying attention, you're sharing the road, you're aware of your surroundings, and you're not distracted, that's what we require people to do. Now, if you are driving without due care and attention, the charge of careless driving is appropriate and can be laid. Distracted driving, I guess, really should be called the cell phone law, because that is specific and unique only to using it, touching, or holding your handheld communication device, holding or using your cell phone.
People always have a question that, can I use my phone when I'm stopped at a traffic light?
Yeah, you know what? No, you can't. The only time you can use your cell phone in your car is when your vehicle is parked and stopped in an area where you can actually park and stop your vehicle and get out of your car. So if you're stopped at a red light, yeah, you may think nothing's going to happen, you're only driving, but you have 30 seconds maybe to check a message. But the problem is we also know that if you're focused on your cell phone, when you look up and see that you have a green light, now there are people waiting behind you, but it takes another 15 or 20 seconds by some research for you to fully appreciate what's going on in your environment. So imagine you're sitting at a red light, you're looking at your cell phone, all of a sudden you hear a horn from behind you because someone's honking because the light's turned green, and you look up, the green light is green, and you put your phone down and you step on the gas. You have no idea what you're doing. There may be pedestrians or cyclists that are in the intersection with you that you haven't had a chance to process. And so you are not allowed to use your cell phone anytime your vehicle could be put back into motion when you're on the roadway. Only when your vehicle is parked, you're in park, and your vehicle's turned off, or anywhere you can lawfully park your vehicle, usually in a parking lot or a gas station someplace.
So if I see someone using a cell phone while driving, what should I do?
Well, that's one thing that we're trying to balance, because we don't want people to be more distracted by trying to get the attention of other drivers that are being distracted, and that's dangerous as well. I've been driving beside other vehicles and seeing them on their phones, and while I'm driving a fully marked police vehicle, they have no idea that I'm there. And even if I hit my siren or hit my lights, they're still oblivious to the fact. If you're focused on looking at this distracted driver, you're obviously not focused on what you're doing as well, and things can happen very quickly. If you're a passenger in a vehicle, what we would like you to do is note down the location. You can actually go to our online website and report driving complaints, distracted driving complaints, to the police, and we will follow up on that. If this person is all over the road and obviously they're putting themselves and the public in danger, that is the only time when you can actually use your own cell phone and call 911. And we get driving complaints pretty regularly by motorists who see this behavior and want it to stop, and we will certainly do what we can to try to intercept these vehicles before they cause a crash. So we don't want you getting involved, but you can certainly take a report and call police and let us follow up with these drivers.
We will continue this conversation and talk about the exemptions of the Ontario's distracted driving laws, but right after a short break. Welcome back after the break. We have in conversation with us Ontario Provincial Police Sergeant Kerry Schmidt. Sergeant Kerry Schmidt, I would like to talk about the exemptions now. So what are the exemptions to Ontario's distracted driving laws?
Well, there's not a lot. Now, there are some exemptions now. Public officials, law enforcement, police officers, they are allowed to use cell phones, or the legislation does not apply to them in the execution of their duties. Now again, we don't want to be distracted ourselves, and we know the risks of doing that. So we certainly don't want to set a bad example, and we will not use our cell phones. But in a police vehicle, there are computers and devices and screens that we are using all the time. We have automatic license plate reading cameras. We often have partners that work with us as well. So there is exemptions regarding that. There's also some exemptions for mechanics. If you're doing a road test and you have a diagnostic machine in your vehicle, you're allowed to look at the diagnostics if you're actually doing a road test for analysis of the vehicle. But beyond that, unless you're a public service worker or you're a law enforcement, firefighter, different emergency services, that's the only exemption. So anyone who's driving back and forth to school, driving back and forth to work or to dinner or groceries, you need to have your full attention on driving. And the only time you can really hold or use that phone is if you're calling 911 to report a true emergency, or you can press them to press the phone on a single point of contact to either answer or end a call. Now, you are allowed to use Bluetooth. Now, a lot of people may have an earpiece, or your phone may be connected to your vehicle, and you may have CarPlay, Apple Play, Google Play, and all these things that are connected on your display screens in your vehicle. Now, if your steering wheel or your control panel has the ability to access features of your phone, you are allowed to use that on your vehicle, but you can't be using your phone. So basically, if your vehicle has that technology, the Bluetooth, take your phone, you can put it in the glove box, you can put it in your purse, get rid of it. The Bluetooth will connect, and then you can do everything hands-free, either voice prompts, steering wheel controls, or on the screen. You're allowed to use and touch that because that's part of the technology of the vehicle. Keep in mind, if you are being distracted because you're having a Bluetooth conversation with someone, that in itself is actually taking away brain power and computing power that you need sometimes to focus on the road. And I know I've talked to people in the past where they've been on a very heated or in-depth conversation on Bluetooth, and they don't remember getting home. They don't remember how they got, or they might forget their turns because they're so engrossed in their conversation. And that's dangerous as well. So as much as it's legal to have a Bluetooth conversation on your cell phone, it still may not be safe. And so you are allowed to answer or end a call by touching your Bluetooth, answer or end a call by touching your phone, or using the built-in Bluetooth features of your vehicle. But again, always be careful. Make sure you have your hands on the wheel and really your eyes on the road, and you need to be thinking about what you're doing. Cell phones is different than having a passenger beside you. It's a different dynamic, and it can make things very stressful for your brain to keep up with all those demands.
Absolutely. Another thing I want to talk about is road sharing. So what is the right use of the left lane?
Yeah, well, the left lane should be for passing. Now, sometimes when the highways are busy in morning rush hour, there will be cars in all lanes of traffic. But if there's gap in front of you, if there's space in front of you and you're in the left lane and there's traffic behind you, that means you're holding up traffic. And it doesn't matter if you're actually going the speed limit or even exceeding the speed limit. If there's traffic behind you and there's room in front of you, you're required to turn out to the right to allow other cars to overtake and pass you. So you need to use your mirrors. A lot of people think that they can stay in the left lane as long as they're going the speed limit, and that's actually not the case. You have to stay to the right, pass on the left. Anytime you're driving down the road, if a car passes you on the right side of your vehicle, you're in the wrong lane. And drivers need to think about that. And sometimes a car might come up from behind you, they might come close, they might flash their high beams, they might do different things. And what they're trying to do is signal to you that you should think about what you're doing. Don't get angry and don't get road rage, but maybe think about their considerations. A lot of times people don't have their headlights on and there's no taillights. People might flash their high beams, turn on your lights. So if someone flashes you, think long and hard. What are you doing? What have you done? And what should I do differently? And stay out of the left lane unless you're actually passing.
Is there a penalty for it though?
Absolutely, there is a penalty. Yeah, you can be charged and ticketed for that. I believe the penalty is $110. And obviously, it really comes down to aggressive and preventing aggressive driving and road rage. Because very often you see a car weaving through all lanes of traffic, and you think that's the problem. That's the driver that needs to be taken off the road. But you think they're only weaving through lanes because there may be someone in the left lane that didn't move over. And if they would have moved over, they might be just driving nice and straight with everybody else and not trying to weave through traffic, which is a danger for everybody.
Absolutely. So we know that we are in a winter season now, and we see a lot of drivers who do not clean the snow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is a problem, and particularly on the days immediately after a snowfall. The snow might come on and blow onto the vehicles, and you drive, you might see a flurry of snow flying off the vehicles. But the day later, that snow has often compressed and become sheets of ice. And when you drive down the highway at a certain speed, there's a chance that that sheet of ice can fly off your vehicle. And even a piece the size of my hat or a dinner plate is all it needs to fly up and smash a windshield and cause serious damage to a vehicle and even injuries to the occupants inside. So you are required to operate a safe vehicle. There's no specific offense for not clearing your vehicle of ice and snow unless that ice and snow is preventing you from seeing outside your windows. You can't use your mirrors. Maybe they can't see your lights. But again, it's best practice and in your best interest to make sure your vehicle is clear of ice and snow so that doesn't come flying off and cause a hazard, which you could be held civilly liable for if there's a collision behind you.
Don't you think there should be a penalty for it?
Well, that's up to the Ministry of Transportation, who is in charge of the Highway Traffic Act to determine what is appropriate or not appropriate for law enforcement. At this point, we don't have that, but obviously the OPP would support any type of legislation that makes our roads more safe.
But does police officer give a warning to someone who is driving with the snow on the car?
Well, yeah, they may give them a warning, they may stop them. They could be charged and ticketed for other offenses related to that snow. The charge won't say drive with snow on the roof. It might say drive with headlights covered or drive with no view to the rear. So there's different ways that the officer could conduct enforcement, but anytime we see dangers like that, we certainly want to make them safe. And whether it's on a passenger vehicle or an SUV, you can buy snow brushes that have an extended reach, so you can easily brush that snow off your vehicle. If it gets to the size of a commercial vehicle or a transport truck, it becomes more difficult, because in that case, you can't ask the driver to climb up onto the roof and start shoveling the snow off of the vehicle, because that's a workplace safety issue. But again, there's other mechanisms that they can scrape the snow off. But again, drivers need to think about what condition their vehicle is in as they're driving down the highway.
But are there any rules for the truck drivers?
No specific rules for, like, they need to do their daily inspections, but there's no specific rules for clearing their vehicles of ice and snow. So that is still something that we want drivers to realize. They could be held civilly liable for issues, but it's not going to be a ticket on the side of the road.
Okay. My last question would be about the speed limit on highways. We know right now it's 100 km per hour, and the government was thinking of increasing the speed limit. But right now, what is the maximum speed limit driver can drive up to?
Well, there are actually our 110 km per hour speed limit in pilot project zones across the province. So here in the GTA, the QEW is actually speed limited at 110 kilometers between the area approximately St. Catharines and Hamilton. There's another area out beyond London on the 402 and the 417 up towards Ottawa. So we have different areas where the speed limit is 110 kilometers per hour. That is the speed limit. That's the maximum speed limit in ideal conditions. And remember, even in winter weather or icy roads in different conditions, even that speed may be inappropriate. How fast can you go? The speed limit is the speed limit. It'll be up to the officer's discretion to determine whether or not they're going to stop you for going a speed in excess of that, and how far in excess of that is going to initiate traffic enforcement or patrols or education. So again, it's up to every individual officer's discretion as to what they deem as unlawful or requiring their interventions to slow traffic down.
In the end, any message or advice for the Ontario drivers?
Well, do you know what my advice is? There are so many drivers out there. We just want to make sure everyone understands the rules of the road. Educate yourself, share the road, use your mirrors in your vehicle, know what's going on around you, and if you are courteous to people around you, they'll be courteous to you. But again, think about what you're doing and where you're driving. Stay out of that left lane. Don't tailgate. Don't follow too close. Put down that cell phone. There's all kinds of good messages out there. Drive to the road in weather conditions, but in the end, let's get along, let's share the road, and know that we're all trying to get to our destinations, and we all need to work together to make sure we all get there safely.
Thank you so much for joining us and sharing all that information with us.
Thank you.